Welcome back to bmaster79. In this video we are going to work through a full ielts speaking part 2 and part 3 answer at band 9 level. The topic is describe a program that you enjoyed very much. Here is what we will cover. First, how part 2 actually works. Then the cue card itself. Then brainstorming under time pressure. Then a full band 9 answer, built in 5 pieces. After that, all 4 part 3 questions. And finally, a language bank you can use in your own answers. So, part 2. The examiner gives you a card with a topic and 3 or 4 prompts. You get 1 minute to prepare with paper and a pencil. You then speak for 1 to 2 minutes without being interrupted. At the end, the examiner may ask one short rounding off question. Here is the cue card. Describe a program that you enjoyed very much, for example on TV or the internet. You should say what the program was about, where you watched this program, who you watched it with, and explain why you enjoyed this program so much. Now, what should you actually do with those 60 seconds? Write 4 short note headings, 1 for each bullet. Notes, never full sentences. Spend the most thought on the last bullet, because Y is where band 9 answers are won. Choose something you can describe concretely. A dull true story beats an exciting invented one, and aim to still be talking at 1 minute 45. The examiner stops you. You never stop yourself. Here are the notes I would write in that minute. 4 headings, matching the 4 bullets. Look at how short they are. Wild Frontiers, a wildlife documentary series. Watched at home on my laptop in the evenings. Watched with my dad, who is a birdwatcher. And 2 reasons for enjoying it. It was visually stunning, and it changed how I think about conservation. That is all you need. Before speaking, I have a rough shape in my head. 20 seconds on what it was about. 20 on where. 20 on who with. Then roughly 50 seconds on why, which is the longest section by far. And 1 sentence to round off. Notice that the why section gets more time than the first 3 bullets put together. Here is the answer piece by piece. I'd like to talk about a wildlife documentary series called Wild Frontiers, which I got completely hooked on about a year ago. Essentially, it followed a small crew of biologists as they tracked animals through some of the most remote landscapes on the planet, the Mongolian steppe, the Namib Desert, that sort of thing. Each episode was built around a single species, and rather than just showing you beautiful footage, it walked you through the science behind what you were seeing. I watched almost all of it at home, streaming it on my laptop in the evenings once I'd finished studying. To be honest, it turned into a bit of a ritual. I'd make myself a cup of tea, dim the lights, and lose myself in it for an hour. For the first few episodes I watched it on my own, but once I mentioned it to my dad he got interested too, so we ended up working through the rest of the series together. He's a keen amateur birdwatcher, so he'd pause it constantly to point things out, which was mildly irritating but actually made it far more memorable. As for why I enjoyed it so much, there were really 2 things. The first is simply how visually stunning it was. There was 1 sequence of a snow leopard picking its way across a cliff face at dawn that genuinely took my breath away. I actually rewound it and watched it again. But the deeper reason is that it changed the way I think about conservation. Before watching it, I'd have said protecting wildlife mattered in a vague, abstract sort of way. Afterwards it felt urgent and personal. So all in all, it wasn't just entertaining, it left a lasting impression, and I still recommend it to people whenever the subject comes up. Here is the whole part 2 answer in one place. Pause the video if you would like to read it through. Notice that there is not a single rare or showy word in it. The score comes from precision and from natural collocation, not from difficulty. Now part 3. This is a 4 to 5 minute discussion linked to your part 2 topic. The questions move away from your own experience towards society, causes and opinions. Your answers should be longer and more analytical than in part 1, roughly 4 to 6 sentences. A reliable pattern is position, reason, example, then qualify or contrast. Question 1. What programs do people like to watch in your country? The trap here is listing genres. Instead, split it by generation, which gives you structure automatically. Older viewers, younger viewers, and then one thing that unites everybody. It varies a lot by generation, I'd say. My parents' age group tends to gravitate towards news bulletins and long-running family dramas, things that come on at a fixed time every evening. Younger people have largely abandoned scheduled television altogether. They're watching reality competitions, cooking shows, and short-form clips on their phones. If there's one thing that cuts across the whole population, though, it's live sport. That's still the one genre that gets everybody in the same room at the same time. Question 2. Do people in your country like to watch foreign TV programs? Answer yes, but immediately say what changed, which is streaming. Then qualify it. The appetite is selective and comedy travels badly. Very much so, and far more than they used to. Streaming platforms have made subtitled foreign content completely effortless to access, so dramas from Korea, Spain, and Turkey have built enormous followings here. That said, I think the appetite is selective rather than indiscriminate. Audiences go for foreign dramas and documentaries, but comedy tends not to travel nearly as well, presumably because so much of the humor is bound up in wordplay and cultural references that simply don't survive translation. Question 3. What is the benefit of letting kids watch animal videos rather than visiting zoos? Give 2 clear benefits, access and ethics. Then push back on the premise of the question, because a screen cannot reproduce being physically close to an animal. Land on, ideally, children would get both. The obvious advantage is access. A well-made documentary can show a child a blue whale or a snow leopard in its natural habitat, which no zoo could ever replicate. There's also an ethical dimension. Children aren't being taught, even implicitly, that it's acceptable to keep large animals in enclosures. Having said that, I wouldn't want to overstate the case. A screen can't reproduce the sheer scale of standing a few meters from an elephant, and there's decent evidence that direct contact is what actually sparks a lifelong interest. Ideally, children would get both. Question 4. Do you agree or disagree that game shows and chat shows are a waste of time? Take a clear side, then concede a point to show balance. The strongest move here is to attack the assumption hidden inside the word waste. I'd have to disagree, though I understand where the criticism comes from. It's true that a lot of them are formulaic and pretty forgettable, but I think calling them a waste of time assumes that everything we watch has to be improving in some way, and I'd question that assumption. People work long hours, and switching off in front of something undemanding is a perfectly legitimate use of an evening. Beyond that, the better chat shows do real work. A skilled interviewer can get an author or a scientist to explain their research to an audience that would never pick up their book. Here is the language bank for part 2, opening naturally, describing content, adding texture, and evaluating. Learn these as whole chunks, not as single words. And for part 3, taking a position, qualifying, generalizing well, and challenging a premise. That last group is the one that separates a 7 from a 9. Finally, why we would call this band 9. Fluency and coherence. The answer runs at length without effort, and the ideas are sequenced. Lexical resource, precise, natural collocation, grammatical range and accuracy, a wide range of structures with errors that are rare and hard to spot. And pronunciation, sustained, flexible, and easy to follow. A quick note. Band 9 here is our own quality assessment against the public ielts band descriptors. It is not a certified examiner score. Your turn. Record yourself answering the same cue card in 2 minutes, and check one thing only: did you spend the longest on why? Then answer the 4 part 3 questions using position, reason, example, qualify. If this helped, subscribe to bmaster79, and I will see you in the next one.